Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Right now, we're going to take just a few minutes and work on a brief introduction to the concept of externalities and to some extent how that applies in environmental issues. The environment provides a lot of great examples of externality problems that we see in the real world. So, first of all, what do we mean by an externality, at least when we talk about it in economics? It's when a cost or benefit cost. And let's see if we can write that a little neater. Or benefit falls on a third party who's not part of the activity or transaction. So basically, when somebody does something that imposes costs or benefits on third parties, right? Not the party who's doing it, not the party who might have contracted with them to do it. That's an example of an externality. You'll see plenty more examples of that. But one good example of this is pollution. So when we drive our cars, when we generate electricity, when we burn other fuels for heat in our home, we generate pollution. Pollution is a great example of an externality, in specific, a negative externality. But then we ask you this question then. So just to wrap up our introduction, I want to be a little bit, surprising, shocking, have you think about this in a different way. What is the optimal level of pollution? Now, I can't hear your answers, right? I could ask you to yell it out loud, but I won't be able to hear you right now. But usually when I ask this question, I can get a lot of people who say, hey, pollution is bad, so the optimal level of pollution is zero. Right? Maybe you were thinking that, maybe you weren't, but that's a pretty common and natural reaction, right? We've learned a long time ago, pollution bad, we should not want bad things, so the optimal level of a bad thing must be zero. But now let's press on that a little bit. What is the optimal level of fatal car accidents? Well, same thing, right? Clearly, these are bad, right? We don't like these, so doesn't it make sense then the optimal level is probably zero? So what if I told you I have a solution? I have a proposal. It's actually very straightforward. It's very simple. We could do this, and we could eliminate or at least drastically reduce, significantly reduce the amount of fatal car accidents that we tolerate in the United States. And here it is. It's on the next slide. We institute a national speed limit, and we empower law enforcement at all levels to vigorously enforce it. In fact, if you want to go so far, we can install mechanical governors on all vehicles that physically prevent them from exceeding the national speed limit, which I'm proposing at 2 miles per hour. Now, could there still be car accidents? Sure. Are they likely to be fatal? I suppose, that there will be, it's possible, but it seems very unlikely. So, if it is true that the optimal level of fatal car accidents is zero, then shouldn't we be willing to undertake any policy that would get us there? I'm proposing, right, here's my policy proposal. Proposal, there we go, to get us to this point. Are you up for it? Are we going to do it? And again, this works much better when you can respond. But chances are you are not willing to do this, right? This means, I don't know, what is it, 75 miles from Rochester to Syracuse? That's now a 35-hour drive. Most of us can walk significantly faster than 2 miles per hour. So we will not be driving much. Think about all the deliveries, all of the stuff that gets hauled on trucks into your local grocery store or your local Target or Walmart or other retailer. All of that now at a maximum speed of 2 miles per hour. Buy fresh, buy local takes on a whole new significance, right? If you create restrictions on travel like this. So the truth is that we are probably not willing to do this, right? Most people would not embrace this as a viable policy proposal. So what does that mean? Then we have to push back and say, is the optimal level of fatal car accidents really zero? Similarly, is the optimal level of pollution really zero? Because in neither case do we set out to create the bad thing. We don't, nobody goes into business specifically to make pollution. People don't seek to create nasty car accidents, right? Those are byproducts of other things that we do enjoy, right? So pollution is the result of transportation, of heating, of electricity, right? of air conditioning. Those are all things we value. Those are good things. But in the process of creating and consuming those good things, we impose these what we call external costs or negative externalities like pollution. Same, right? The car accidents are a byproduct, right, from transportation, from speedy and efficient and useful and valuable transportation. So maybe we shouldn't be thinking of the optimal level of all bad things as zero, but rather, when we think about the underlying thing that we value, heating, electricity, air conditioning, transportation, are we correctly accounting for those external costs, right? Those costs that fall on third parties. So here is sort of the setup. This is basically the same definition I gave you, handwritten a little bit earlier. And then specifically, I pull them out. We call when there are external costs, we call them negative externalities. So for example, pollution. And when there are external benefits, we call those positive externalities. And so that would be a case where somebody's landscaping is really beautiful and makes other homes valuable. That's when people get vaccinated, right? And therefore they are less likely to contract a contagious disease and less likely to pass it on to others. So there is that less likely to pass it on to others. That's the external benefit part. So that in a nutshell is the introduction. There are plenty more videos to walk us through this, but that's the starting point. And just remember, just because something is bad doesn't necessarily mean the optimal level is zero. However, that is just to be clear, I'm not trying to say we are at the optimal level of pollution or that we're at the optimal level of car accidents or the things. What we want to do over the short course of this chapter is develop a way of thinking about both the benefits and the cost to the individual or internal or private costs, as well as the external costs or the external benefits of an activity, and make better decisions based on the full